Listen to the unofficial voice of World Cup 2006, brought to you by Times Online and Avalon in association with the new Dodge Calibre.
Hello and welcome to Baddiel and Skinner's World Cup podcast, and a special congratulations to our Australian listeners. Oh, I bet they'll be bouncing on the balconies of St Kilda tonight. What's in the show, Dave?
Well, Frank, you can hear what might be our last ever Peter Crouch joke. We find out the truth behind the stolen World Cup conspiracy of 1966, and we discover which Italian player may yet win the Grand National. It's all, I believe, coming around that mountain as I speak. So Michael Owen's got injured. I don't know if you knew that.
We're in, where are we now?
Where are we? Munich.
Yeah, we're in
It's
Munich.
really hard to know.
We're in Munich again.
Yeah.
And we actually got some English papers today, so we've been reading up on it, because we still haven't seen really what, even though we were at the match, we just suddenly became aware that Owen was on the floor.
Yeah, I just saw him go down like a horse.
So it's really weird that it's
like
one of the kind of, you didn't actually see him go down.
You've said this before. I didn't see him. Why would I lie?
People do that at games, and they miss an incident, and then you talk, and then after about a bit, they start claiming they've seen it.
What's that Canadian comedian that we both like? The one who was in...
Norm
Macdonald once said this joke about, I stand to gain nothing from that lie. I stand to gain nothing from the lie that I saw Michael Owen go down.
Well, okay.
I just saw the end of it, and I didn't know why.
I don't know, make a great kiss and tell. No, but... I thought at the time, we both said, well, I didn't see what happened, and then yours kind of grew. It happens to me at football matches. If I miss a goal, I'll lie about it. Okay, anyway, but we didn't see it very well.
No, we didn't see it very well. It's one of the things about not having telly out here, sort of English telly. And
it's weird that everyone's talking about a massive incident and we haven't seen it, but we still...
But luckily, Joe Jones, who writes to us quite a lot, has written quite a lyrical description of Michael Owen's
I'm starting to think that Joe Jones should get a producer credit on this.
Yeah, he should really. And can I read it to you? Because I think it's a rather lovely piece of writing.
No,
about a horrible moment, but a nice piece of writing. Okay, he talks about that clip of Michael going down, and not that one that you're thinking of, and dragging himself heroically off the pitch like a wounded gazelle should become required viewing, he says, for all referees, so they can learn to tell the difference between real pain and injury and the crybaby rolling and wailing of players who only want an advantage in the game. And he explains this is because Michael's face did not contort with agony. He looked bewildered and frightened, and he did not lie in wait of assistance, but seemed to have that visceral and instinctive response that led him to drag himself to safety. And then he says, does this sort of create a tingle in you, this moment?
It does a bit, actually. We were talking about football tingles, weren't we? But that's usually brilliant stuff. But I feel terrible kind of sympathy for it.
It's a strange moment to think of as a tingle. I mean, there's a moment in Schindler's List when the train...
Not when they go, goodbye, Jews!
No, I like the goodbye Jews moment, and
Yeah.
I've used it... well, I didn't use it. I was with a friend of mine at a kosher restaurant, and he wasn't doing it. And as he left, he said, goodbye, Jews! Which I thought was an excellent thing
Did
to
they
do.
wave?
They all waved, obviously.
That was
They did
lovely.
some dancing. But no, the bit in Schindler's List where they're going on the train and they look out and a little kid does that sort of across the throat
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
you see, and that sort of creates a horrible tingle in me.
Yeah.
But that's so the Michael Owen injury is like that.
No,
really,
the
for me.
idea of him
perhaps
crawling
not
off the
as
pitch.
great a tragedy, I suppose, but
Yeah.
still something of a tragedy.
You're not claiming now that you saw the Holocaust as well, are you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've only read about
I'm
it.
going to speak to the Iranian president about it tomorrow.
Is he coming? Good. Anyway, did you read Michael Owen's statement? It said, it's a massive blow, major disappointment. My main objective now is to get fit as quickly as possible for Newcastle. I'm going back home and I'll work with the medical staff to put a recovery programme in place.
Now, I see. I don't get a tingle from that, and I'll tell you why. Is that whenever during the World Cup players start talking about their clubs, it's sort of like that back-to-school moment in the summer holidays when you passed your favourite shop and they started putting out school uniforms and school caps, and you think, oh, the holiday is over.
No, you think, hold on, it's still summer. Don't get going those. It is a bit when you were about club football. Although I was very excited, of course, to read today that West Brom's opening game is home to Hull City.
No, that is very exciting. How back to school is that? That is so back to school.
That meant the World
information.
Cup pale in comparison, I might tell you.
I'm worried what Michael Owen going to do, by the way, because he might be out for 9 months. How much time is he going to have to gamble? I mean, he looked very pleased when he came back to London, so I was wondering if that was on his mind.
Poor Michael Owen, though.
Yeah, poor Michael Owen.
I'll tell you something, speaking of back to school and club football, have you noticed the England fans, when they come here, When you see them on the day of a game, they're all wearing England shirts, virtually every one of them. But if you see them around the town the next day, they've changed their club shirts. I always really like it informal wear. I'll wear that for the big occasion. And now back to the Sunderland shirt.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's on the invitation to the game.
And those shirts, although they're made for professional sportsmen, seem to be designed to make you have the worst BO ever. They really make you
they're
sweat.
acrylic, aren't they? They are acrylic.
Why put them in acrylic?
Well, because they're not designed for people with very, very fat stomachs. You see, they are, as you say, designed for people with very taut frames.
But sportsmen sweat.
Well, yeah, they do sweat, but I don't think they sweat like England fans. There's a very particular type of beery BO that comes on those things. Actually,
we include ourselves.
Talking of clothes and stuff, I actually have Sven's statement about Michael Owen's injury, and what he says is, I wasn't that worried at first. When the doctors turned to me and said change, I knew something was wrong. Now, he thinks they meant, you've got to change Michael Owen, but they might just have meant, Sven, you better change. A, out of those terrible clothes you've been wearing, and B, as a manager, with all your silly ideas about 4-4-2.
You sure that wasn't a homeless person that spoke to him? Just said, change. In fact, when he brought on Peter Crouch, they said, have you got anything smaller?
Hey, very good. You know, something else I'm worried about is, I've got it here somewhere, is the bloke who looks after Michael Owen.
What? Han Müller-Wohlfahrt?
Yeah, there's a German bloke, the most German name in the world, Hans Müller-Wohlfahrt, something or other, who is...
That's German enough.
That's
no more German names.
He's a doctor, and he's apparently treated Michael Owen. He's also treated Steven Gerrard. And he made a statement today, and I sort of think, is he like Harold Shipman, this bloke? Because these are players who have been injured for ages and ages and ages, and he's supposed to be the best back and foot specialist in the world.
Yes.
But if you actually look at his record, these players have suffered major injuries. So I'm wondering if he's sneaking in very, very terrible things to their limbs in order to make them go down at the wrong moment.
Do you think being treated by him is a bit like being interviewed by Martin Bashir? It's a sort of kiss of death.
Kiss of death, exactly.
Princess Diana, Michael Jackson.
I'd like
Michael
to make it clear that we haven't got his name right anyway, but that Hans Müller-Wohlfahrt is, of course, nothing like Harold Shipman in actuality.
No, and in fact, he's a fabulous doctor, I'm sure, and looks after those players.
Indeed,
very,
but
very
those
well.
players,
But
I'm just pointing out that those players have all...
I guess it's the chicken and the egg. I guess he gets blokes that are very badly injured rather than he gets them and he makes them badly injured.
I'm sure he doesn't make them badly injured, really. That was really just for comic effect.
Yeah, well, you say that, but they've used that excuse before, let me just say that.
So anyway, Peter Crouch is obviously going to come into his own now.
Well, that'll be worth seeing.
Yeah, and we were talking about Peter Crouch, weren't we? About how
we've talked about
given him a hard time.
I say he's been a mainstay in these podcasts.
He has,
Peter Crouch.
Yeah. And actually, we mentioned that a friend of ours, Danny Trelford, said enough with the Crouchophobia. So we thought, didn't we, that perhaps we should, for the moment, have a Peter Crouch amnesty.
Well, the fact is, we're running out of strikers, so maybe we're going to be nice to the ones we've got left. Is what I think.
Well, if we are going to have a Peter Crouch amnesty, can I just do my one last negative point about Peter Crouch? I'll hand it in to you, like I might hand in a knife to a policeman.
Okay, so this is your knife coming.
And that is that I've noticed that he can't turn round. That people go on about him playing well with his back to goal. But it's if you play your back to goal, it's good if you occasionally actually turn and face goal if you're a striker.
Yes.
And I started maybe when he was younger he was a steward, Peter Crouch, and he was told you can't turn around and face the game because you'll lose your job.
I'd like to see one of those orange coats though.
Well, it'd have to be a very long one.
It look like those glow sticks there.
Someone might pick him up and wave him. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering if we did have to play Germany in the final, which would be brilliant. If he scored, Peter Crouch, if he took his shirt off, the image would bring back such terrible memories to the German crowd that they'd get very guilty, and then we could beat them when they were down.
Surely we should have a Holocaust joke amnesty as well.
Okay, well, let's debate. No more Holocaust jokes, quite rightly, and no more. We're going to lay off Peter Crouch now because we're running out of strikers. The Peter Crouch support group starts here.
But I do think he should learn to turn around, because as it says in the Hokey Cokey, you turn around, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that is basically what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though. Do you know that the last English player that Sven-Göran Eriksson signed when he was a club manager was Danny Dichio?
No.
And Danny Dichio is another big, gangly, rubbish centre forward.
Yes.
Not that Peter is obviously on
that's against the amnesty.
No, sorry,
You've ruined the amnesty already.
That slipped in. I'll take that back. But he obviously he likes those old-fashioned English centre forwards.
Yeah, he does.
Now I'd say something that was very wrong in that paper that we got, and that was I have it here.
Yeah.
It's Sir Geoff Hurst. Now, we like Sir Geoff Hurst because I don't know if you know it, but he scored a hat-trick in the 66 World Cup final. And obviously,
I didn't know that.
During this, he does mention... But basically, he says we've got to drop David Beckham, which, if you don't mind me saying, is bollocks.
It's absolute bollocks. Complete rubbish.
And
you know why he says that, of course, don't you?
Well, it gives him a chance to bring up the 66 World Cup final in the article because he says, they should play Lennon, who's only 20, but actually Alan Ball was only 20 when we won the World Cup.
There's a body swerve there because you think he's going to say, you see, we dropped Greaves and I came in and I scored a hat-trick. But no, he chooses Alan Ball. He slightly deflects it, so the glory's not so obvious.
But he knows, once you've said the number 1966, everyone thinks, that's Geoff Hurst scoring that hat-trick. But it says at the end of this, and I presume that they have to put this in, it says, there's an article in which he slags off Beckham, but then it says, Sir Geoff Hurst is McDonald's director of football.
He's what?
That's what he is. He's McDonald's director.
They have a director of football at McDonald's?
Yeah.
What, do they have, like, a special 1966 edition Big Mac with, like, a hat-trick of burgers?
It's a Gabardine Big Mac.
Yeah, the second one is not quite in the burger. No one's entirely sure if it's in the burger or not.
Why? Oh, because it's not over the... Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come with me on it, come with me.
Sorry, did it cross the dill pickle? I really hope that Sir Geoff Hurst drives a car that's a big burger. You see those cars that are like with a sausage on top?
Yeah, like in The Simpsons.
Oh, I'd love to see him driving a burger.
Director of football at McDonald's? What's Ronald then? Is Ronald like the manager and he's director of football?
I don't think Ronald doesn't get involved with the actual... I think he's director of football, so he kind of deals with transfers. And I think he bought in the Little Mermaid toys.
Yeah. Did they beat Burger King in the Burger Cup final?
I don't know if there is a Burger Cup final, but if there is, I'd like to be there.
There's been a lot of talk as well, hasn't there, about the England defence and all that, and not doing very well at set pieces. And John Terry, who's been held partly responsible for the goals going in, the Swedish goals going in.
A bit harsh.
Says what makes it worse is that Steve McLaren had told us beforehand that 35% of goals are conceded from set plays at World Cups. I don't know if Steve McLaren's been talking to the Fink about 35%.
Was that his pre-match talk?
Yeah, I think
and remember, 35% of goals come from set. What I like about that is when the first Sweden goal come in, did they hear a voice through the roar that went 36%? Then the second one, that's 36. Yes, Steve. Yes, we're keeping count.
Yeah.
I just thought they were two very, very good corners.
Yeah.
Because there was
a brilliant header.
Yeah, but they weren't really near post. They were well in from the near post, and central defenders don't go out that far.
Well, Rio Ferdinand has also talked about how he feels a bit responsible for it, and he says, that defending from set pieces is something we'll have to look at over the next couple of days. And he says, but on the other hand, on a lighter note, maybe we could say it's better for it to happen now rather than in the next game where we're going to be knocked out if we make mistakes like that. Now, I would question whether that is on a lighter note.
No, I was being knocked out.
Yeah, I think if it's on a lighter note, it should be now on a lighter note, a small song about the braids in my hair, for example.
Yeah. Well, on the news, he'd say, on a lighter note, a woman in Horsham has taught a squirrel to embroider.
Exactly.
The trouble is, he probably doesn't have access to that kind of news trivia,
but there's got to be stuff. On a lighter note, some jokes about how I once forgot to take a drugs test, for example.
Well, there must be some local Baden-Baden goings on that he could have told them about. Yeah. Anyway, it's all right having a go at the team, but we're through, and we're very much behind them, aren't we, Dave? Including Peter Crouch.
There are things in life you look forward to. There are things you can't wait to see. One such thing was the Argentina-Holland game, so I watched it on German TV. People say that was like watching paint dry when describing things that were a bore. Well, this game was like watching paint already dry in the hope it might dry a bit more. I could not understand what was being said. The players seemed to be lazing about. It was like watching live Big Brother when they blocked the speaking bits out. My mind, it began to wander. Saw Maradona was at the ground. Did he buy that Argentina shirt or have an old one just lying around? Ruud van Nistelrooy's hair looked terrible. Maybe him some shampoo I will send. This season he's had so much hairdryer treatment it's given him split ends. Felt sure Holland would play Arjen Robben, but they couldn't have been less keener. Think they started to question his loyalty since they found out his middle name was Tina.
As in Argentine.
After what seemed more like a lifetime, of course the game ended up drawn. I wish that I'd stayed in my hotel and watched 90 minutes of porn. At least then I would have seen some foreign people sweating and straining like hell. FIFA's seeding system has worked this year, but it's worked too bloody well.
Arriba!
Well, I'm here with David Baddiel, and he's ordering his food on room service.
Yeah, what kind of artichokes are they? Just ordinary artichokes? Yeah, okay. Well, I won't have them. Actually, I'll tell you what, I will have the artichokes now.
I can't get him off the artichokes at all.
The artichokes and the spaghetti. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Bye. You nearly put me off my ordering there. That's what happened. Because there's a bloke, and if I started talking to you, he'd have got very confused, because he was quite confused about the question, what kind of artichokes are they? To be honest, I don't know what that question means. I wouldn't know what the answer was myself.
Perhaps we should open that to our listeners. What type of artichokes are there in the world? That's the great thing. We've got artichokes. What kind? Well, I'll keep you posted. Maybe we'll record it when it turns up, and we'll describe the specific artichoke.
So, once again, we've had some fabulous emails.
Yeah,
it's good, the emails, and it makes me feel like we're not in a terrible isolate. Just me, you and Rochi stuck in a foreign country all on our own.
No, and they've all been about the Tourette's thing. Well, not all, but the two that we noticed
That
about
is the
Tourette's
one
thing.
theme that people have seized upon, isn't
They
it?
love
the
that.
football Tourette's.
Things that people say when they hear footballers' names.
Yeah, I heard from a guy called Kevling, and he said, while watching the Spain game tonight, every time I heard Bouazizi, I kept following it up with, like Sunday morning.
Now, we can't sing that, unfortunately, because we'll be charged by Lionel Richie.
No, we can't.
I'd love to sing Bouazizi
We'll be
like
charged
Sunday
by
morning.
Lionel. Look, he's like
Yeah,
some
like
terrible
some rhino.
rhino
Yeah,
with his big face.
His big old chin will hit us.
He's one of those
It's like he's
blokes.
got a rhino horn upside down, Lionel Richie, because if you imagine the horn is his chin, he's always had a very long chin.
Well, he's one of those blokes with the top of his head, like John Barnes. Top of his head is quite small, and the bottom is obviously it's a bit of a mismatch.
I always used to do my joke about him. Do you remember my joke about him from the cabaret
About Lionel
circuit
Richie.
days?
Go on, do it for an old time's sake.
I used to make jokes about how he was essentially not a very attractive man. Then I used to say, it was a very good thing that in the video for Hello, if you remember the video for Hello, the one in it was blind. Otherwise, the song would be called Goodbye.
Huh?
Oh, it used to go better than that.
Yeah, well, when I said I remember the video for Hello, I was actually lying.
It doesn't work without that. It's got a blind woman in it.
I remember Hello, but we can't really talk about that because of our amnesty on Nazi jokes.
Well, you say that. We've had an amnesty on Nazi jokes. Unfortunately, we've had an email from BJ Reisman, who is one of my faith.
Yeah, but it's all right to speak about Jews in isolation.
It's en masse that I think they had the problem with.
Let's stop it.
Anyway, BJ Reisman, about 15 years ago, me and my brother and a couple of my mates were sitting bored in the back of synagogue on a Sabbath morning, and I know that is a very dull time. We were looking for footballers in the Bible, which seems like I'm not sure there's that many mentions of them, but there you go. And you'll never believe this, but we found one. When it gets to the bit, and Onan died. Onan, of course, who committed the sin of onanism, I assume. When and Onan died, one of my mates said, "Got it, Ian Ormonroyd."
And Onan, yeah.
And Onan died, Ian Ormonroyd. And now every year when we get to that bit, every year he goes to... Anyway, I always have to phone up my brother and ask him if he spotted the footballer in this week's Torah reading. Now, something's odd that, because if he's religious enough to go to synagogue every Saturday, he shouldn't be phoning on Shabbos. I don't think. You shouldn't be BJ Reisman.
No, exactly. He should have, what did they call him, a Shabbos guy?
He should have a Shabbos guy to phone his brother for him and say, make the Ian Ormonroyd reference.
I'll phone him if you like.
If you would,
In case you don't know what that is, that Jews aren't allowed to do anything, are they, on a Saturday?
Nothing involving electricity.
So they get non-Jews to come around the house and turn the lights on when it gets dark and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you've offered to do that for BJ Reisman.
I have.
Ian Ormonroyd played for Villa, didn't he?
He played for a few teams, didn't he? He was very much the Peter Crouch of his day, wasn't he, Ian Ormonroyd? So very good. But there was a bloke who played for Tottenham, wasn't there? Ironically enough, called Mark Lazarus.
Yes.
That's a footballer who's in the Bible.
Yeah. Well, there probably are some other ones. I've got Moses. There's Remy Moses.
Yeah.
Now I'm stuck. There was that bloke who played for Hull, Simon, who is called Peter.
Yeah, I don't remember him.
Oh, yeah.
Actually.
We can ask.
You know what'll happen? People are sending 10 million.
Do send them in.
Anyway, if you've got any emails, you can send... No, I've started doing this link very professionally. I don't know the email address.
It's www.baddiellandskinner.com, or can you send it through to the Times, Rochi?
Yeah, it's www.timesonline.co.uk.
It's interesting how people say email addresses now, isn't it? In that kind of one breath thing to try and imply it's one word.
Yes. But at least he knew what it was.
Yeah.
The Italian player Camoranesi, he's got like one of them really long horse faces and a ponytail. So he looks like an incredibly foreshortened horse, just like the head of the arse.
Yeah, and if you look very closely, there are big clumps of shit that actually come out the back of his head.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah, quite grassy shit.
Oh, yeah. It's, that shit that you think is doesn't really qualify as shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I always think with horse shit. I always think, well, I don't mind actually standing in this. Oh, Italy's about to score.
An observational comedy about horse shit, ruined.
Italy have scored.
Camoranese's actually done a short bit of dressage in celebration.
Yeah. Isn't that true though about horse shit? That I don't mind standing in it, whereas in dog shit it's absolutely anathema.
Yeah,
but it kind of seems. I kind of think it's all right with horses.
Because horses are a more dignified type of species, I think.
Yeah.
I said that probably man is the most dignified of species, and I hate any kind of human excrement.
Yeah, indeed. I wouldn't stand in that.
Yeah.
But I kind of just started to think the horses maybe eat flowers and things like that are quite nice.
True, and it's associated with international velvet and whatnot.
Yeah.
Have you found as well that whenever
Do you think when they say, when they're about to go, they say, I'm touching international velvet?
I'm very pleased to say that I now have with me Bing Crosby.
Well, hi there.
Bing, can I first begin by saying that I'm very sorry that you were cut off midway through your football comment about 2 podcasts ago.
Yeah, I'm told it was a technical hitch.
It was actually our producer Roach's fault.
What a knob.
Anyway, I was wondering how you felt about the fact that Brazil have finally seemed to come alive in this World Cup with their 4-1 defeat of Japan.
Well, let's not get carried away. It was only against Japan.
Bing Crosby, thank you very much.
No problem. So I don't know about you. One thing that gets me while I'm over here is that there's no kind of telly worth watching. We're watching the games, obviously, with the German commentary. But before we left England, there was loads of documentaries on. And I saw this one, I know you didn't see this, Dave, about the World Cup being stolen in '66.
Yes.
It was a brilliant documentary. You know, Pickles.
Oh, I know Pickles stole it, yeah.
Obviously.
No, I said Pickles stole it. Pickles found it.
No, Pickles.
I always
didn't
get
steal.
confused
You
about
always
that.
say that.
I know, I'm always libeling Pickles, I'm sorry.
You're going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
But those details I never knew. The company who were guarding the World Cup, it was stolen from a stamp exhibition in London in '66.
Yes.
The company were called ALSA Guard Security.
ALSA.
Right. ALSA.
Yeah.
And their company, they had a little local news thing on, and it said, and their company motto is an alert Alsatian.
No.
That was their company motto.
An alert Alsatian?
What does that mean? It's a company motto.
Do they have an Alsatian guarding stuff? Is that part of their thing? Or do they just think, well, people are going to think that's like an association of something that will guard something well?
No, but it's not a motto, is it? A motto
No.
is EU laughs last, laughs longest, not an alert Alsatian. That's a description of a dog.
No, they've got it's a description of a dog. I think they've got confused as well because it's got some alliteration, hasn't it? An alert Alsatian.
Well, because the company's called ALSA, I
Yeah.
think that's what he called it,
Yeah.
because it's to suggest an alert Alsatian,
Yeah.
which obviously does suggest
What
security.
they should have said, if it's a motto, is something like ALSA, as alert as an Alsatian.
That would be very
That
good,
would work.
because they're not always alert.
Well, no, but assuming that they
When
are
they're
pretty...
couchant.
Yeah, well, I haven't got an Alsatian, so I don't know how well they're
Well,
couchant.
sometimes they sleep, I've got a sweet in my mouth, so I
got a
can't
sweet
do
in your
this. But when Alsatians sleep, and the eyes start twitching, and you get the...
I wish you could see this, listeners. It's so like an Alsatian.
That's a dreaming Alsatian.
What is particularly peculiar about that is, of course, it was then found by a dog. So there's a
Yeah.
whole dog thing running through it.
a whole dog
Yeah.
plot going on with the 66 World Cup. And it did look, the way it was, it had like a fat bottom bit, didn't it, with all
The Jules
names
Rimet
of the
trophy.
teams on, and then the wings.
Yeah.
Make it look a bit like one of those
bone.
bones.
A bone.
Because it's got that bit in the middle.
But there was
that's quite
someone... Here's
slender.
the kicker to the conspiracy, okay,
Yeah.
which is that today there was a Japanese bloke in front of us with a Pickles T-shirt on, and he had a dog holding the Jules Rimet trophy on it like a bone. So clearly that there was some idea in someone's head that this should be a bone, and a dog should be having it in its mouth.
Well, that is a bone of contention.
It is indeed.
If only it was a Korean bloke, it would have made it even more.
Of course, I've never bought the whole thing about that. It's always struck me as being some kind of scam.
Well, something I learned about that World Cup thing was, did you know that the Jules Rimet trophy, which is the one we all see with Bobby Moore holding up, the lady with the wings and all that. I know you know. I'm just helping out listeners. Do you know that it had a little lid? A little detachable lid on it.
But you've always said, haven't you, about the Jules Rimet trophy that it looks like something where you might find 2 buttons and a needle in it at some point.
On top of
the mantelpiece,
with a stamp that someone thought, that's come off quite easy. I might be able to use that again.
It never does.
And a paper
it just
clip.
stays there.
No, but it had a lid. I have never seen...
Where's the lid gone?
Well,
that's the thing.
Well, this is a mystery indeed, because the lid... When the people stole the cup, Joe Mears, who was like the FA an official
at the time,
they sent him the lid in an envelope to prove that they'd got the real World Cup.
No,
they had the lid.
Like people threatened to send a child's ear when they've kidnapped it.
Yeah, like that J. Paul Getty's son, I think they sent the ear. Well, with the Jules Rimet, they sent the lid.
Did they really?
Yeah, that's
But where's
true.
the lid now?
Well, exactly, because they got the lid.
Also, why did it have a lid?
It's probably a coaster at Joe Mears.
Why did it have a lid? Did they think, someone might drink out of this, some tea, we better keep that warm?
But I suppose they thought, well, what if it's raining on July the 30th?
yeah, but it'll be fine. It'll just overflow a little bit.
Whenever you see the Jules Rimet trophy after that, I've never seen it with the lid.
It's a hexagonal lid, because it's a hexagonal tub that she's holding up.
It would have to be to fit, obviously. Yeah, I'm sure it fits the tub.
Well, what's surprising about that is, doesn't that suggest is that whoever stole it, maybe even Pickles, the bloke who found it, I don't know if we can say this, because he might be still alive, but Pickles...
He's still alive, he was on. He said he was...
He never saw the lid.
The lid, he couldn't have seen the lid. The lid had been
returned. The lid had been returned to Joe Mears.
Yeah.
So Joe Mears' family
might have the lid.
Yeah, well, what's very interesting about that is that, it was given to Brazil, after whatever it was, 4 times. It was then stolen. 3 times, yeah. It was then stolen in Brazil in 1983 and melted down.
Well, they don't know it was melted down, but it's gone anyway.
Well, I think they assume the gold has melted down. So that means that's the only surviving remnant of the Jules Rimet trophy is now the lid, and we don't know where it is.
Well, I'd like to know where that gold was. In fact, wouldn't it be the best bet to send a golden retriever?
Yeah, just to tie up the old dog thing.
But there's weird stuff about it. I know I'm going on about this, but it was a great thing. They talked about the curse of the Jules Rimet trophy.
Right.
Because Joe Mears, he got this phone call from this bloke said, I've got the Jules Rimet trophy. If you ever want to see it again, put this much money. And Joe Mears got very bad angina.
I do.
And had to go to bed because he felt terrible. Because it's the stress of it.
The stress of it, right.
And then he died not long after.
Really?
So that happened to him. The bloke who they caught handing it over, who always said it wasn't him who stole it, he was just doing a bit of fencing.
Right.
He went to prison for 3 years, and when he came out, died almost immediately afterwards. But the saddest, and this is a terrible story, Pickles...
I thought something might have happened to Pickles.
Pickles, 6 months later, and how suspicious is this?
Yeah.
6 months later, Pickles was strangled by his own lead chasing a cat up an alley.
You know what I think? I think he was going to squeal. I think Pickles was going to go to the paper and blow the whole story.
He was going to smile. He was going to go and go.
Yeah, he was. I reckon Pickles was going to get paid whatever they paid then, £25 by the Daily Express.
I hate the idea that Brazil were given the Jules Rimet.
I know, it makes no sense, does it? Why did they do that?
When we were at the opening ceremony, they showed lots of footage of old World Cups and that. And when you see, like, Bobby Moore holding it up, or back in 1930, the Italian, was it the Uruguayans
won the first one.
Yeah, and then the Italian and the 58 Brazilians. They're all holding that trophy, and you think they should have kept that, give a real sense. Whoever
I don't know who thought of that. I don't know who thought of like when someone wins it 3 times, they can have it. I don't know what they think. It's a kind of it's a knockout style rule, isn't it? It doesn't really seem to apply to a major sporting competition. I can't think of any other sporting competition where you get to keep. No one gets to keep. The FA
Wimbledon
Cup, or the Wimbledon
ladies
thing.
singles plate.
Yeah, or anything else. But they decide, you can have that because you've won it 3 times.
And what did they do? They got it nicked.
Yeah, exactly. You give it to the Brazilians and they just lose it, basically.
Wouldn't it be brilliant now, if we win the World Cup this year, to see David Beckham holding up that same trophy that Bobby Moore held up?
No, exactly. And also, you've rubbed your cock on the one that they've got now, for people who've watched fantasy football.
Yeah, but we're not publicising that. Well, it's competition time.
It is, and as you may know, you can win a Dodge Caliber,
Yes.
which is a car, in case you don't know.
Oh, it's a smashing car. I must say, I'm over it now. I'm over being stood up.
Yeah, for those of you who listened to the
the
last podcast, you might know that we were stood up by the people from Dodge, but it turns out it wasn't their fault.
No,
That's what we understand.
we were left sitting around at the England game, but it turns out that they'd said they weren't coming, and apparently this is the story I heard, that they told Times sales department, and they didn't tell us, and that's why we ended up
You
there.
would have thought the Times, a newspaper that's able to communicate things to the whole of the world, could actually have got something to us somehow.
Yeah.
Perhaps in the form of a small newspaper.
Yeah, well,
Headline, Dodge people not coming.
Well, I phoned up
Did you?
the Times sales department, yeah, and the bloke said, "Hey, Time, go on, you told you where. Hello."
Well, he might have actually been saying the Dodge people aren't coming, but it's impossible to make out, isn't it? That's the trouble with those blokes.
He wasn't that helpful.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have a competition in which you can win a Dodge Caliber, and it's a mystery voice competition.
Yeah, they're all footballers. They were all played in the World Cup. We've had a few of them. We're building a squad, aren't we?
Yeah, and if you go to the website, actually, you're going to be able to put the squad into the little slots on
Into
there.
formation.
And you can hear the voices again, and
It's a great help if you want to win that Dodge Caliber.
it is. And this is mystery voice number 8.
And look, you, Baddiel, you should be keeping your eyes on me all the time.
So that's quite a recognisable voice
It's
in
a
some
voice.
respects.
It's a voice you might have heard a few times. You know, we had an email from a goal. A goal.
An email from a goal? Hooray, it said.
It said it's from Gold Coast Toon, and it says on this. It says, "When you two get out of the Dodge, does that mean that you're Excalibur?"
The
good.
sword. Excalibur the sword.
I like that. We haven't had many Arthurian gags on
No,
the
that
show.
might be the first and the last.
So the meal has been completed. Dave, what kind of artichokes were they?
Well, what they were, which I was quite pleased about, because I was worried, Frank, that they might be those kind of artichokes you sometimes get in a jar, in a little pot. They weren't that. They were fresh artichokes, kind of fried. And now, what I'd like to know from you is when I first ate an artichoke, which was only like about 10 years ago, I was told that part of an artichoke is poisonous. And when I was eating these now, they were very leafy, like a little bit like eating a tree. And I thought, is this the poisonous bit?
I've never believed this thing that parts of some foods are poisonous. It's just rubbish. My mum used to say when I had pomegranates as a kid, if you eat the yellow part, you'll die. She also said that if you swallow chewing gum, it'll mess your insides up, like it got in like some sort of machinery in your heart.
Well, I still won't swallow chewing gum for that reason. I think that presumably if you swallow it, it sticks your kidney to your liver. And that's that. So anyway, big match on Sunday. England, Ecuador. I never thought we'd be playing Ecuador in a World Cup.
No,
Sounds odd,
it's
doesn't
not
it?
something I've fantasised about, to be honest.
No, but we don't know much about them. We know, of course, that they dropped 6 players against Germany, so it's possible they're a bit better than they looked against that game.
Have you ever been? You've been most places.
Ecuador?
Yeah.
No, I've never ever been to Ecuador. All I know about it is that their FA, the Ecuadorian FA, actually have their own brand of perfume. It's rather strangely called dribbling. It is generally called dribbling. There's one that's called celebration dribbling, and another one that's called something like speedy dribbling. And I thought, what would our FA? That's what I thought. What would our FA be like if they put out a perfume? Perhaps sent to Brian Barwick would be a very lovely thing for the RFA to put out.
I'd have thought with the Swedish manager, it'd be a piney kind of.
With a Swedish manager?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it would. It would
like
be piney.
kind of magic tree
But
type
Steve
feel.
McLaren, it'd be sort of Teesside. It'd be all industrial and decaying.
Yeah, it'd be like chemicals, wouldn't it? Because they got that big ICI thing up there.
Yeah.
No, presumably he's going to move to London now. He's not going to stay in Middlesbrough.
Yeah, well, I don't want him to market his own brand of perfume wherever he lives, to be perfectly honest. But we don't know.
Oda McLaren.
But all we know about them, Ecuador, is that Christina Aguilera he's sort of second-generation Ecuadorian.
Her dad was an Ecuadorian.
Yeah, he's still alive. He's an Ecuadorian. Don't know much about her. Frank really quite fancies her. I fancy her a bit less.
I think most people quite fancy Christina Aguilera, don't they?
I
prefer Britney.
I prefer Britney. Even though Britney's now got fat and really trader trash, I still hold out a candle for her above Christina.
Yeah, well, it's good that you still like her with she's fat, spotty, yeah, I interviewed her once, of course, and she was a nice person.
She was lovely.
But she's not the sex goddess that Christina Aguilera is.
Did something go up with the microphone there?
No, I've got... we picked these up, didn't we, in the hotel lobby. It's a little book about Ecuador, so you might think, well, they should know more then, but it's in German.
Yes.
It's got a sea lion on the front.
Yes. Well, a lot of people, of course, think our song is Sea Lions on the Shirt. So maybe it's a reference to that. They misunderstood that in Ecuador.
Well, there's a lot of pictures of wildlife. I get the feeling that it's a big wildlife place.
It's an extremely plaintive-looking sea lion on the front, isn't it?
They always look a bit sad, though, because they've got those big eyes.
And they always look like they know they're about to be clubbed.
And there's other stuff in here, like Die Straße de Vulcane, which means the street of volcanoes, which is not a great place to live.
There is a volcano in Ecuador, I understand. It's the only. I read this. It's the only volcano that supports a glacier, which seems unlikely because if you've got a glacier and a volcano, it's going to melt.
They'd get on, would you?
Yeah, they wouldn't get on it. It's going to melt and put the fire out.
Perhaps they're divorced, and that's why the volcano has to support the glacier.
Maybe.
Perhaps the glacier can't get work in Ecuador
some sort of
because it's so
glacier
hot.
support agency.
Yeah. That is a strange piece of information. There's frog. According to the pictures, there's a lot of frogs there.
Yeah.
Who was that team? There was a team at the World Cup who was kept awake.
By frogs, yeah.
What
There's
team
always
was
this
it?
in the World Cup. It was Ukraine. That's what it was. There's always Ukraine lost 4-0 to Spain, and then they blamed it on being kept awake by frogs.
It said we've been kept awake by croaking frogs.
By croaking
Turned
frogs.
out there was a French hospice next door.
I was hoping you weren't going to say anything about French people, about croaking frogs. Zidane was a blah blah blah. Yes, but that always happens. Like it's in 1966 when England were kept awake the night before they lost to Brazil by noisy Mexicans. There's always some people keeping teams awake when they lose. Broccoli. There's a big picture of some broccoli.
Broccoli Spears. You like that, don't you? Because even though it's got fat and spotty and trailer. Oh, no, that's Britney Spears.
Yeah, that's Britney Spears. We know very little about any of the Ecuadorian players. There's De La Cruz, who plays for Villa. He's a defender for Villa. And there's some other player.
Does he play for Villa?
Yeah, De La Cruz plays for Villa. Rochi doesn't know anything about football, so he doesn't know.
I don't know. I thought he played for Southampton.
No. Augustin Delgado, who is their top striker.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He had 2 seasons at Southampton in which he played for 143 minutes in total. And the rest of the time he was on the treatment table.
Was that in one match?
Yeah, it was a big match. Went to extra time.
The people were going home and he was still playing.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to... No,
But it's one of those... It's a quandary, isn't it? Because like this, you hear that. That's one of their top players, right? Hardly ever played for Southampton. They got someone else who's a Villa defender, and then a lot of people who you've never heard of, and yet they've got to the second stage of the World Cup. How has that happened?
Well, that's because, you see, they don't have any Galacticos. They play as a team, and they're all humble, simple
You say
men.
that, but they're very near the Galacticos Islands. So that was it. That's podcast number 8, all done and dusted.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And we should say, by the way, thank you to everyone who downloaded all the podcasts before, because that demand has led apparently to an extra 5 being asked for by the Times, to which we have said a big fat yes, haven't we?
So instead of 10, it's 15 now.
It's now 15, which will be great for the mystery voices.
It'll work out really neatly, because we've got 15 mystery voices. Now we don't have to do that thing where we're going to do a cramming them all in.
We were going to do 5 in the last one, weren't we? Well, that's brilliant.
Yeah, we were going to have to craminasium them all in at the... Yes, exactly. So that's brilliant news.
Brilliant news. So anyway, England, come on England. I feel it's time for Theo Walcott.
I feel that as well. And the Let's Play Theo Walcott campaign starts here. Not that I've got anything against Peter Crouch.
No. The Peter Crouch amnesty starts here, and the Theo Walcott plays bandwagon at the same time. How is that possible?
Listen to the unofficial voice of World Cup 2006, brought to you by Times Online and Avalon in association with the new Dodge Calibre.